I have some crazy clips to show you of Donald Trump rambling outside of court today in his Manhattan criminal trial. Now, he normally does this every single day at any chance he gets, but this one was especially bad. So David Pecker was continuing his testimony today. He was the guy in charge of catching and killing stories for Trump's 2016 campaign, and he just laid it all out on the witness stand, revealing these very intimate details of the alleged crimes against Donald Trump. I mean, this testimony was damning for Trump and his lawyers. So after trial concluded for the day, Donald Trump came out and spoke to the cameras about a variety of things, such as how he felt trial went for him today, how he felt the immunity arguments in front of the Supreme Court went, and then in all of this, he also managed to defend neo-Nazis. Not kidding. Remember the Charlottesville protest in 2017 where he said there were fine people on both sides? Yeah, he brought it up again and downplayed it, saying like, oh, it was nothing. Who even cares about that anymore? Insanity. So I'm going to show you these three clips that we just talked about, and then later I have an immediate reaction from one of Donald Trump's former lawyers to his Charlottesville comments. And I'll preface that by saying he didn't hold back, didn't mince words, and I certainly think it's worth a watch. But here is that first clip of Donald Trump's incoherent ramble outside of court today.
Listening to the defendant.
Thank you very much, everybody. Today was breathtaking. This room, you saw what went on. It was breathtaking and amazing testimony. This is a trial that should have never happened. This is a case that should have never been filed. And it was really an incredible day. Open your eyes. And we can't let this continue to happen to our country.
So yet another installment of Donald Trump's ramblings that are just full of nonsense. But he is right that the testimony was breathtaking and amazing, but not for the reason he thinks it was, but because it further proved that Donald Trump likely committed the crimes he's being accused of. David Pecker's testimony tied him in to all of this stuff, to being involved into what stories were caught and killed, to payments to people, to hush money payments, to NDAs, all of this stuff. David Pecker's testimony tied Trump into. So much so, by the way, that David Pecker testified that in 2017, Donald Trump invited him to the White House for a quote-unquote thank you dinner, a dinner to show his gratitude for catching and killing these stories and helping his 2016 campaign to influence the election of Donald Trump. So I don't know what reality Donald Trump is living in, but the reality we are all living in shows that this testimony was very bad for him. And I think that the difference between reality and Trump is just so fascinating right now. Like just 10 feet over in that courtroom, we heard this damning testimony that really puts Donald Trump's defense team in a bad spot, just tying him into all of these alleged crimes. And then he walks out of the courtroom, goes and stands in front of the camera and paints an entirely different story. One that, oh, it's just a fake case. As you saw, the case should have never been brought. It's nonsense is what he says. When in the courtroom just moments ago, he was being destroyed by the prosecutors speaking to Mr. David Pecker on the witness stand. He's just painting a different story. He's trying to further, rewrite history, gaslight the American people into thinking that this is nonsense. It's just not going to work, though. The evidence, the facts speak for themselves in this case, and this tired talking point he has that it's nonsense and it should have never been brought, it ain't working. It's falling flat on its face. So the next clip I want to show you is of Donald Trump talking about the immunity arguments from the Supreme Court, and once again, nonsense.
So I heard the meeting was quite amazing, and the justices were on their game. So let's see how that all turns out. But again, I say presidential immunity, very powerful. Presidential immunity is imperative, or you practically won't have a country anymore. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, again, just a complete difference from him in reality. Reality paints a different story. Trump's lawyer got grilled in front of the Supreme Court today by justices on the liberal side, on the conservative side, for his insane arguments, such as that a president should be able to assassinate a political opponent and not face repercussions, and that a president should be able to sell nuclear secrets to an enemy and not face repercussions. The justices were just not having it, both liberal and conservative. Even Amy Coney Barrett, a Trump-appointed judge, was not hearing it with Donald Trump's lawyer. Now, of course, there are these MAGA judges on the court who are in Donald Trump's pocket, who do everything they can to try to make Donald Trump's arguments make sense. They do these insane mental gymnastics to try to give him some validity. But the majority of the court, thankfully, or at least I hope, sounded like they weren't buying it. So I don't know what reality he's living in. I don't know who's telling him that these arguments went very well for him. But aside from all of that, again, he's trying these tired talking points that immunity is necessary. And if you don't have it, oh, everything crumbles. You won't have a country anymore. Nonsense. Nonsense. You only need immunity if you've committed crimes. That's the only time you need immunity. Joe Biden's not asking for immunity. Barack Obama is not. George Bush is not. Bill Clinton is not. You only need immunity if you've committed crimes. Donald Trump is the only guy going all the way to the Supreme Court asking to be protected, and I think that's pretty telling. And the fact that he is trying to argue that he should have the ability to kill political opponents, that is pretty telling, and that's incredibly concerning, that he thinks he has that ability if he were to win re-election again, or I should say for the first time, because he didn't win the first time, win re-election in 2024 and serve a second term. Nonsense. It's just so frustrating to see him continue to repeat these bad talking points, these terrible arguments which were torn apart right in front of him, but he pretends he doesn't see it. Anyway, his comment on Charlottesville is the final clip I want to show you of him rambling. And I won't even open this and try to describe what happened here. I'll just let you watch for yourself. Take a look at the clip.
Having protests all over. He was talking about Charlottesville. Charlottesville was a little peanut. And it was nothing compared, and the hate wasn't the kind of hate that you have here. This is tremendous hate, and we have a man that can't talk about it because he doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand
what? Charlottesville was a little peanut? It was nothing? I mean, just a disgusting thing to say. That was a rally of some of the most hateful people in this country saying vile things about different races, different religions, praising leaders in the past who have taken out millions of people in the name of this hate. A peanut? It was nothing? I beg to differ. In all of this, somebody died. And we saw this relentless hate on display on our TV screens of people chanting, "You will not replace us," about Jewish people and immigrants. What a disgusting comment. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Donald Trump said that there were good people on both sides, fine people on both sides. So maybe he truly believes that it was nothing, but for the rest of us who watched that horrific day in American history, we know it wasn't nothing. We know that it's not something to downplay. It's not just a little peanut. It is something that not only did Donald Trump defend, but it's something to be condemned, not downplayed. God. Baffling as to how anybody supports this guy when he says stuff like this weekly, daily, hourly on Truth Social, for that matter. Anyway, as I mentioned, God, it's so frustrating. As I mentioned, Donald Trump's former lawyer, a lawyer who used to work for him in the White House, had an immediate reaction to these Charlottesville comments he made outside of the court, and I think it is worth a watch. So here is that clip.
Getting it, just the fact that he's mentioning Charlottesville has to make his campaign cringe at this point, right? Like, that just brings back all those bad memories about that issue. That was a really bad issue for him at the time. I was in the White House when all that was unfolding, and to bring that back now was a big mistake on his part politically to raise that. But the rest of it is campaign rhetoric, right?
Yeah, I think he's 100% right. I mean, this was someone who was in the Trump White House at the time. He knew firsthand how bad it was for Trump and his administration. You know, Trump was defending it, trying to justify the rally, again, saying that there were fine people on both sides. Just disgusting comments. And with one sentence, one comment, outside of court, Donald Trump brought up that political firestorm again for him and his campaign. I mean, everybody's talking about it on social media, on media like this. Everybody's talking about it. And everybody's remembering the insanity, the chaos of the Trump administration, how bad things were when he was in office. So not only is it a disgusting thing to say, trying to downplay what happened that day, but also it's just a political headache for Trump and his campaign. It's a gift to the Biden campaign. I'm very confident that they're already working on a new ad with these comments, playing them side by side with what actually happened at Charlottesville. But yeah, just a really gross thing to say. I think we can all acknowledge that. And once again, another edition of not only Donald Trump's incoherent rants, but him shooting himself in his foot. No idea why Donald Trump would bring that up in the context of his trial, but that's just how Trump's brain works. Just say whatever, do whatever, who cares, we'll deal with it later. That's Donald Trump. Not a recipe for success for a president, huh? Anyway, I'll leave the video there. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe down below. It goes such a long way. Drop a like on the video. Comment, of course. Let me know what you think about all of this. Share the video with anybody you think needs to see it. And as always, I greatly appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.